Yo, what's up, BookTube fam? We're back with yet another author interview, one I've been geeked to share with you guys for the past few weeks. But before we jump into that, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and join the family. But without further ado, I have the privilege in interviewing author Jay Kristoff. He is the author of the Empire of the Vampire trilogy series, as well as books like Nevernight and other bangers as well. I just finished his Empire of the Vampire series, and it was amazing. One of my favorite grim dark fantasy trilogy series ever. So I got to sit down with him and ask him some nitty gritty questions about his Empire of the Vampire series and all things Jay Kristoff. So if you're a fan of that author, then you are in the right place. So sit back, enjoy, and happy watching. This was one of my favorite interviews of the year so far, and he's such a great guy. So hope you guys enjoy, and as always, happy reading.
And there he
Hey man,
is,
how you doing?
Mr. Kristoff, the man, the myth, and the legend. How are you doing?
Good man, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This has been, I've been thinking about this the whole day today. So, for starters, I just want to give you a big thank you for even considering jumping on this and chatting with me for a little bit. And, yeah, I just finished your last book, not your last book, but your most recent book, yesterday. And, yeah.
And you still wanted to talk to me afterwards. That's good
Yeah,
news.
I don't want to jump in spoilers, but I was upset with you at first when I was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, get away, you get a pass there. But aside from that, everyone, welcome in. This is New York Times best-selling and international best-selling author Jay Kristoff. Mr. Kristoff, again, thank you so much for this. People have been yelling at me to read any one of your series, your books for the longest time. I was like, you know what? I'm going to read Empire of the Vampire in the fall. So I started the first book last fall, and I was like, whoa. So I binged them. And I loved it. And your work is it's incredible. So thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. And thanks to the people who were telling you to read my stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means a lot when people are out there spreading the word. That really means more and does more than people realize. So yeah, I
Mhm.
appreciate everyone out there, people like you and the people who were talking to you, spreading the word. It really helps a lot. I appreciate it.
No, not a problem. Yeah, no, and now that I finished the Empire of the Vampire trilogy, I'm going to be shoving this down people's throats. Like, hey, you want to read something
How
crazy
cool.
good? Read this, read this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So just to get to know you as a person, outside of an author, when you're not writing, what does Jay do to turn your brain off? What is kind of like your leisure activities that you like to embark on and do?
I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer
Oh
ever
yeah.
since I was a kid. So I still play D&D with my buddies every
Okay.
week. Um, Although we're playing Shadowrun at the moment, we're taking a hiatus from D&D and D and running a Shadowrun game.
Right.
But yeah, I basically roleplay every week. Same crew that like a lot of them. One of them is my best buddy from high school, so I've known him
Oh,
since I was like
nice.
13 years old. Um, I play video games. I read. Um, I'm a massive Formula One fan and
Really?
a massive WWE fan. So Royal Rumble this weekend. Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that one. Nice, nice. I've watched some Formula One because I'm actually German. So a lot of like
Oh yeah, okay.
MotoGP, Formula One I used to watch a lot when I was younger. But F1 has really been piquing my interest lately. I think I want to.
I am the most unsporty person in the world. I don't watch sport as a general
Yeah.
rule. And then during COVID, a lot of people will tell you this story. During COVID, the guys um, at Formula One made a show called Drive to Survive, which is
Okay.
it's kind of like a behind the scenes look. Um, that kind of explains the sport from the perspective of the drivers and the people on the teams. So it's kind of reality
Uh,
TV-ish, but it let you get to know the people behind the sport. And, it was COVID and we had nothing else to do. So we
right.
just
We were all just
binged like
right. All
four
right.
seasons of Drive to Survive and I was just into it. There was an Australian driver, a guy named Daniel Ricciardo, who drove for
Mhm.
Red Bull. And because, whenever an Aussie sees another Aussie kind of punching on the world stage, because there's not many of us, there's only like
Mhm.
25 million people in the country, you kind of immediately glom onto the Aussies. So
Right,
I was a big
right.
Danny Rick fan for years. He doesn't drive anymore, but subsequent to that, I've just become interested in the sport. So yeah, me and my wife watch it every race. And we've got a
Okay.
Grand Prix here in Melbourne as well. So F1 is kind of built into the bones of the city where I live.
Right. Nice. I heard that so you do read, and it's funny, I ask a lot of authors this, and sometimes it's 50-50 where it's like they're always writing, so they don't read as much anymore, or it's the complete
Yeah.
opposite, always reading as well as when they're writing. So since you are a reader, what type of genres are you typically into? Is it fantasy, or is it something completely different that people wouldn't have guessed, or?
Totally different. When I'm drafting, I'm usually reading non-fiction.
Mm,
I don't read fiction at all.
right.
Just because, you don't want anyone else's influences bleeding too much into your own work.
Right,
And
right.
if all you read is fantasy, then you'll really only be exposed to one
Mm,
set of ideas and one set of styles. Um, and I tend to read a lot of history. At the moment, I'm reading a lot of history anyway. Just because if you're writing fantasy, you could do a lot worse than give yourself a good knowledge of real world history because there's some crazy
absolutely.
shit that has happened in real life that you
Yeah.
couldn't even imagine. Um,
Right.
and a lot of the great fantasy authors do draw on historical events or at least historical structures in their world
Hmm.
building. Like George R. R. Martin is a really good example of that. Like Game of Thrones
Absolutely.
is basically War of the Roses with dragons.
Hmm.
The attack on Blackwater Bay is basically the siege of Constantinople. So yeah, having understanding of real world history and events is a really good background for writing fantasy, I find anyway. I tend to
Yeah.
lean on a lot of that when I'm writing. So
And I was just
yeah,
gonna ask you that because there are when I'm reading your books, especially because I'm a big history buff as well, there are a lot of things and sequences and just the historical idealizations that you do input throughout it. So that was one thing I wanted to ask you about. That it was while I'm reading your stories, it feels very heavily influenced by history. So I was gonna ask you if that was one of the things that you did read that kind of helped influence some of the things that you put in your books.
yeah, I mean the core idea at the heart of Empire is based on a historical event. In 536 and 540, records back during the Dark Ages weren't great, but historians talk about a time when the sun didn't shine as brightly in the sky.
Mm,
Happened kind of 4 years apart, and scientists we guess that either there was a big volcanic eruption somewhere, and that threw a bunch of particulate matter into the atmosphere, or maybe there was a meteor impact somewhere in like Russia, and there's a big
right,
fire, and that threw particulate matter into the air. So basically, meant the sun didn't shine as brightly anymore, and that resulted in massive crop failures across Europe
right,
and
right.
war and famine and all the stuff that comes out of that. So that was kind of the genesis of the world building idea for vampire. That's based on a historical event. Obviously, there weren't vampires back then, but
Right, right.
I always knew that I was going to write a vampire book, and I decided to do it in a kind of epic fantasy setting.
Yeah,
So I had an idea of like this vampire apocalypse and wanted to think of ways that you know that might actually come about. So taking away the sun was the idea that I settled on, and yeah, that was inspired by 536 and 540. There was also, I think there was one in the 1800s as well, which was like I think they called it the winter that didn't end or something. It basically,
mm,
again, there was, scientists think there was a volcanic eruption, and that basically meant that not enough sun was getting through the atmosphere to end winter. So winter kind of stretched over an entire year. So yeah,
huh,
having a foundational knowledge of history, even
right.
if it's just to kick off a world building idea or just to kick
Hmm.
off like a character background idea, that can be really helpful. Yeah.
Sure. And that was actually leading up to my next question. What made you said you always wanted to land on vampires. What was that moment where you wanted to write a vampire epic fantasy? What was this something you've always been infatuated with? Was just like vampires in general, or we just like, what would be pretty cool? How about we do an epic vampire fantasy? Because honestly, I personally haven't come across many. You know what I mean?
No. Um, the first book that I ever wrote was a vampire novel.
Mm,
It's a bad book because it was my first book. I was just learning how to write. So
yeah.
I've always loved them. They've always kind of been my favorite monster, so to speak.
Okay.
Um, But that was back in 2008, and that was in the middle of Twilight hysteria. So writing a
Oh
vampire
yeah,
book back then,
yeah, yeah. Sparkly vampires
probably
and
not.
everything.
Yeah, probably not the smartest use of my time. But I always knew that I would circle back.
Mhm.
And one of the world building ideas in that first book that I wrote was a world building idea that I used in Empire, being that vampires can't choose who they turn. It's just kind of a random process. Sometimes you get bit and you just die, and sometimes you bit and
And
you come back.
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of those ideas in that first book. But yeah, like you said, I hadn't seen vampires done at kind of epic fantasy
Yeah,
scale before.
yeah.
Usually they've become a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, which is really cool. And a whole swathe of great writers have brought different interpretations to it.
Sure, sure.
Um, wanted them to be monstrous because that was the
Yeah,
kind of vampire that I grew up with.
right.
But yeah, I wanted to do it in an epic fantasy setting, so kind of taking my love of the monster, but scaling it up to a level that I hadn't really seen before.
Just
So that
completely
that
expanding it. But yeah, because a lot of these things, exactly what you just said is that you get bit by a vampire, either one or two things are going to happen. Um, but you managed to just multiply it by just an astronomical number. Where I was just like, how come like we're just like, why am I just now like seeing this or thinking about this kind of things, or simply because we always get so, we think of vampires, we think of Dracula, we think of, Edward from Twilight. But when these characters, especially your characters, I was like, man, like this is something I personally never read before, or there has been a vampire story, whether it be fantasy or Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like there's been nothing like it, and that was the biggest thing that hooked me. Because like this is something new, and I am really soaking it up.
Oh, cool. I'm glad. I don't know if it's new. I think there was a anime or manga called Vampire Hunter D, which is like a
Um,
post-apocalyptic thing.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah.
future. I've not read it, but people have compared Empire to Vampire Hunter D. So I think they do, or the author of Vampire Hunter D does that
Hmm.
big scale stuff. I haven't
Hmm.
read it, so there's nothing new under the sun. But yeah,
Right.
that was the intent to kind of do it at a scale that
Hmm.
I hadn't seen it before.
Right. When you wrote the first Empire the Vampire book, did you always intend for it to be a trilogy, a three-book series, or was this just okay? Okay.
Yeah, I usually, when I'm thinking about ideas, I kind of default to trilogies. That's just the
Right.
way my brain works. I think because the big fantasy stories that I grew up with were all trilogies in structure, Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars and Lord of the Rings and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. So that's just the way my brain builds story structures.
Right.
So yeah, I always knew it was going to be three books. There was a time where I thought maybe the third book was going to blow out into two books, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, that was me just being lazy. So I actually knuckled down and did the work required. Like your publisher enjoys it when your three-book series kind of balloons into four because then they get to sell four books rather than
Right.
three.
Exactly.
But I wanted to do the original story that I intended to tell justice, so that was just a matter of me putting on my big boy pants and doing the work rather than being
Right.
lazy. But yeah, so I always knew, like usually when I'm planning a trilogy, I will have the big second book twist in
Hmm.
mind, like when you find out, the I am your father moment from
Yeah.
Empire
Yeah.
Strikes
Yep.
Back,
Yep.
like the big twist that changes everything. Usually I have that twist in mind when I'm
Yeah.
writing book one,
Right.
because you have to lay the foundation for that twist in book one. You can't just pull it out of a hat in book two.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then obviously you've got to resolve that big twist in book three. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just the way my brain lends itself when it's writing my stories.
Yeah. You
Um,
definitely hit the nail with the hammer there, because book one, I was like, what is going on? And then after I read Dawn, I was like, no, there's no way. Like, there's no way. And I remember going and just immediately getting three, because the way the way that both books fall into Dawn, I gotta give you your flowers, because I don't think I've binged a book that fast than yours. It truly
Oh,
is.
that's cool. I mean, they're big books as well. They're like,
Oh, you
quarter of
couldn't
a
rip
million words.
you
So
couldn't rip me away from it. I got in trouble at work a few times because I'm just like, trying to keep reading and so yeah.
you're not a nurse or anything. You're not doing anything life-saving. Like no one's going to die
Oh
because
no
you're
no
reading
no
like,
no
okay.
nothing like that, no. And even if I
All right.
was, still they'll be okay. Your character work is incredible. And I went on a stint a few weeks ago about, everyone loves your character Gabriel De Leon, but the biggest thing that really stuck out to me was your female character. Your female characters are so badass. Like, is there something that prompts you to create such these strong-willed, just warrior type of women? Because you have Selene, and then you have Phoebe, and you have Dior, and honestly, like, they were just holding the fort. Like, is there something that intrigues you to write these such these strong female like main characters, because they all have a very big part in your story?
Uh, is there something that compels me?
Or does it just flow naturally? It just comes out naturally.
Yeah, I mean, the whole series is around
Yeah.
Dior.
Yeah.
She's the foundation of everything. The
Right.
series is really Dior's story through Gabe's
Yeah.
eyes,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Gabe and Celine's eyes.
Right.
So she was always kind of going to be the focal point, and I knew the
Right.
relationship between her and Gabe was going to be the hinge upon which the whole book failed or
Yeah.
flew.
Yeah.
So I needed to make her as interesting as she could be. Like,
Hmm.
um, you know, she's kind of it's hard to talk about it without getting into
Yeah.
spoiler
Yeah.
territory.
Yeah.
Like she is sort of a trope. Like she's the
Yeah.
young girl that can save the
Sure.
world.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then you realize that things aren't quite what they seem, and maybe she has to forge herself a different path. But
Yeah.
I knew she needed to be strong enough to carry the weight of the book by herself. I knew that there was going to be a long sequence of time where
Uh-huh.
she and Gabe were separated because
Yeah.
that's just the nature of these stories. You need
Mm.
to put the band together, then break
Yeah.
them apart.
Yeah.
Tolkien knew it with Fellowship of the Ring, and we've all been copying Tolkien ever since. So, yeah, I needed to make her interesting enough and strong-willed enough and conflicted enough
Mm.
in herself and with the people around her that she could hold her own without Gabe on the page with her. So yeah, I put a lot of work into building her as a character kind of from the get-go.
Sure.
Phoebe, Phoebe is ultimately her role is to try and help Gabe move on from the loss that he suffered kind of before
Yeah.
the book begins. But
Right.
again,
Right.
you don't want that to be the only thing she's contributing to the novel.
Sure.
You want it to be able to stand on her own two feet again,
Yeah.
because there are going to be sequences, in book three, there's three-quarters of the book where she's not on the page with Gabe.
Yeah.
So they need to have enough weight and conflict
Mm.
and backstory and goals that they can operate, even though they're serving a function in a story that Gabe is telling.
Mm.
They need to be able to stand in the limelight and have their moment in the spotlight by themselves. But in terms
Absolutely.
of what motivates me to do that, it's I hesitate to use the word strong female character or the
Yeah.
words, because that term tends to get conflated with a woman who is essentially masculine, like she's just
Sure.
badass and she
Sure.
can she can fuck people up with a sword and
Right.
doesn't need
Right.
no
Right.
man. There's a lot of different kinds of strength.
Yeah.
Dior isn't a character who's particularly martially adept. She can't
Yeah.
really fight.
Right.
She's a figurehead. She's a leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a rogue archetype basically.
Mm-hmm.
But she has her own inner strength and she has her own drives and needs.
Yeah.
I think that's independent of her being female. It's just trying to make her as interesting a character as she can be.
Yeah.
Whether a character is male or female or not makes no never
Mm.
mind to me. I just want them to be as compelling and
Sure.
interesting and able to drive the story as they can. So
100%.
yeah, I try not to think of characters in that way in terms of male and
Yeah.
female. Obviously, men and women are different and they have different needs and different ways of
Uh,
seeing the world and different ways of tackling their problems. But
yeah.
ultimately I'm trying to make interesting characters
Yeah.
regardless of their what's between their legs, you know.
Right. How you all and all every single one of your characters have such a big role in this story. Was there is and that follows up with were there any times where it was difficult or it was kind of tough to kind of see where this character's story would go or things of that nature? Or did you ever have trouble like well this is gonna be a little tough if I try to do this way, but did you happen to have any roadblocks when you were explaining the character's story more? Like, was it tough for you to write a specific
Yeah,
character?
yeah, definitely. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Like if you had have seen the state that the original Empire of the Vampire novel was in, even 6 months before I published it,
Mm,
the whole thing was just a complete mess. So yeah, writing is you're constantly coming across roadblocks.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
story is constantly taking a shape other than what you planned, and your characters sometimes don't do the things that you want them to do. The ideas that you have aren't as clever as you thought they were going to be.
Right.
So writing, one of the golden rules of writing is that, writing is rewriting. You're constantly having to adjust the
Mm,
direction of the ship and the events that drive the story forward. If you have good character foundations, if you've built a good character, then
yeah.
that's enough to kind of drive the story forward, even if it's not going in a direction that you plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's writing is a really chaotic process. I'm working on a new series right now, and I've realized that, I needed to make a change. I've gone back to and it was like a foundational change in one of the
Yeah.
characters. So I've gone back and made that change, and now I'm fixing all of the ripples that have kind of spilled out into the novel as a result of that
Sure.
one thing that I
Sure.
changed. So yeah, it's a kind of constant and chaotic process, but I've been doing it enough now. Like this is my 19th book that I'm
Hmm.
writing. So I kind of have a process and I trust to the process, even if any particular day is hard. I know if I kind of keep at it, I will eventually get to the end of it. And you just have to keep bashing your head against the brick wall until you break
Right.
through. But yeah, it's a hard job. It's
Oh yeah, for sure.
you don't want to see how the sausage is made. You just
It's
see the
it's funny
sausage
you
at the
say
end.
that because I played with the thought. I'm like, I think I could write something. And I started jotting down ideas, and then afterwards I reread them. I was like, nah. I'll leave it to you guys. I'll just be the connoisseurs who just soak it in. But I got this aspiration at one point in time, and even just coming up with ideas and things that I would like to see. I was just a pain. I was like, I don't know how you guys do. You guys are superheroes because I was trying to pull out the hair that I have in my head. Like I don't know what I'm doing at all.
Yeah, I mean it's the best job that I've ever had. It's way better than working in an office, which is what I used to
Yeah,
do.
for 9, 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah, even on the days where it's tough, it's still the greatest job in the world.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it can be like some days are just brutal. Like
Yeah.
some days you feel like you've run a marathon,
Yeah.
but physically you've only traveled 20 meters, 30 meters in the context of the story.
Yeah.
Some days can feel like there was a moment, it was 2019, and I was in Prague. I just finished the tour for Dark Dawn, which is the third Nevernight book,
Okay.
and I got invited to a literary festival in Prague. So I figured I would go to the festival, and then I was just going to book a flat in Old Town Prague because it's, a really gothy city, and I was writing a vampire book, so it's a cool place. I would just
Might
soak
as
up the
right,
vibes.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Um, and I would just finish the book there. The plan was that at the end of that November period, the book was going to be done.
Mm,
And like halfway through that trip, I realized that the book was just broken in like a fundamental way, and I was going to
mm,
have to rip it to pieces and put it all back together again. So I had to call my agent and say, listen, man, I'm going to blow my deadline. I can't get the book. I need 6 more months to get this thing right.
yeah.
And that was just fucking horrible, man. Like those 2 weeks, I honestly thought that I wasn't going to be able to finish the book, that I had bitten off more than I could chew,
Mm,
and that I had made a terrible mistake. And those moments where there's just you and the page, and
yeah.
this story you can see but can't make happen. you feel like dog shit, man. Like a friend of mine describes it when her book is broken, she feels broken as a person.
Oh wow.
And when the book is working, everything is great. Like my wife can
Yeah.
instantly tell if I've had a good day writing.
Right, because
Like
everything's just flowing.
yeah, yeah, and I'm just in a better mood, and I see the world in
Yeah.
a much lighter shade. Because you feel, you're writing from your heart. You feel these
Yeah.
things, and it's
Yeah.
part of you that you're putting on the page. So when it's not happening, it's just the worst feeling in the world. But when you push through, when you get the book, Vampire is the best series that I've ever written in my life. So pushing through all that shit and coming up with
Yeah.
something that you're really proud of makes all the shit worthwhile. But while you're in the
Absolutely.
midst of it, it's still rough.
I was gonna
It's not
ask
it's
you,
not all cocaine and hookers.
right? When you are going through that, when you are either finishing, starting, or in the middle of writing a book, and things aren't going the way that you know what you want to write, but you can't put it on paper. Is that what you typically do? Is you just tear it all apart and then just kind of piece it back together to kind of revitalize that thought as to what you wanted to put on it, or how do you get yourself out of that?
It'll depend on the change. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just one thing that needs realigning, and it's
Uh,
kind of like that one change kind of makes everything else slot in. Usually that's the case with me. It's one part of the book that's not working. And once I
yeah.
solve the problem of what that one part is,
Yeah.
everything else is kind of okay. And that's
Right.
what I'm doing in the current project as well. There was one character that, like, I'm right at the end of the book.
Mhm.
Like I'm just about to launch into the big climax, and I'm sitting here. It's like a multi POV cast. It's like 6 characters. And I'm sitting there with character number 6 thinking, man, I don't know what your fucking job here is. I don't know why you're even
Yeah.
on this page anymore.
Right.
Something has gone wrong. Like if I'm right at the end of the book and I'm looking at you thinking, why are you here?
Mhm.
There's something wrong. So
Yeah.
I immediately knew that, okay, there's something wrong with this character in terms of what their motivations are or what their role is or
Yeah.
how I see them playing out over the course of the book. So I need to go back and
Right.
study them in particular. So usually there's a clue in terms of what doesn't fit,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's kind of more foundational. Like that trip to Prague in 2019, at the start of that month, and it sounds crazy to say this now because it's such a foundational part of Gabe's character, but in November 2019, and I handed in the finished book in I think April or May of 2020.
Mm.
And in November of 2019, Gabe wasn't half vampire. He was just a guy.
Mm.
And like you think about his background and the
Yeah.
thirst and the way
Yeah.
it informs his whole character,
Yeah.
like that wasn't part of his character until like 6 months before I handed
Oh
in the
wow.
manual. So some of those changes, yeah, like I say, they're kind of foundational. And now
Right.
looking back, you can't imagine that not being part of Gabe's character. It informs every part of his world.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes the change that you make is kind of sweeping in that sense. But once you figure out the secret sauce, like I say, everything kind of falls into place. Like
Ultimate.
once I
Right.
made that change to Gabe, it was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, this is who this guy is. This is what the story is about.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it can be a little change that fixes everything, or it can be something more foundational. And it's just a matter of kicking the football against the wall over and over and over again until you
Sure.
figure it out. Sometimes it can be an easy solution, and sometimes it can be like pulling teeth. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to trust the process and keep pushing until you find it. If you look
Sure.
hard enough, you'll find it.
Sure. Yeah. Um. That's crazy to think about, but it's also really, really, really incredible to that's kind of how that process works. Um. What I
Yeah, it's
noticed
messy.
a
It's messy as hell.
You know what? And that's what I commend you guys for, because like I said, when I had the sudden urge, like, I'm gonna write down some ideas, and even that, I was like, I don't know how they do this because I'm just staring at this, and yeah, I don't know. You guys are
I
you
mean, you
guys
do it.
are
You do it one word at a time. You
yeah,
do it, one page at a time. It sounds trite
right,
to say that, but that's really the way every book is written. Um,
sure, yeah,
you study the greats, and You learn what you can from the people who have gone before you and
Yeah,
the people whose work you admire, and then you try and carve out your own thing. So yeah, but
absolutely.
it's not a job for the faint-hearted.
No, 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 I believe it. I believe it. With Empire of the Vampire, the whole entire trilogy, there's a lot of like it's very there's a lot of French attributes that are weaved into the story. What prompted you to because even from the terminology to how they address each other, mon ami, like what really prompted you to do that?
I mean, French is a romantic language,
Yeah,
and it has an aesthetic to it. I
yeah,
mean, when you hear French, it evokes certain feelings and certain moods.
yeah,
There's a sensuality to it, dare I say. Um, it lets you know that you're in a place that's slightly different to your
yeah,
own,
yeah,
when people don't speak a certain way. And yeah, the language structures evoke an aesthetic that I wanted to have
yeah,
permeating the book.
yeah.
There's also there's a great foreign language film called Brotherhood of the Wolf. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like a French foreign language film. It's about the Beast of Gévaudan, which is like it's kind of like a werewolf story.
Okay.
It's like a set just prior to the French Revolution, and it's an amazing movie. You should seriously check it out. It's kind of like this weird fantasy action horror film.
Okay.
But when I was writing Empire, I was watching that film, and a lot of the aesthetics of that film bled into the initial world building of
Oh,
Empire.
yeah.
Like the main character wears this big leather greatcoat with a tricorn hat pulled down low, and his collar popped up around his face, and that's
Yeah.
basically gay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the visual aesthetics of that film kind of informed the visual aesthetics of Empire, and
Yeah.
it was kind of a natural segue, given that that was a French foreign language film, to let that bleed into text as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mostly about the aesthetics of French. It's kind of a sensual, romantic kind of language,
Yeah.
and vampires have that inherent sensuality to them as well. So I felt like that was a cool marriage.
Yeah, even with that, and exactly to your point, even with the style, your illustrations, by the way, are some of the best illustrations that I've ever seen in a fantasy
Oh, they're not
novel.
mine.
Oh, they're
I
not
don't
your,
do
oh, okay, well,
them. No,
it's that, yeah,
no.
no, the illustrations are amazing, and a lot of that, even in the type of clothing that they are wearing, or it's very it has that French aesthetic to it. Was that something you wanted in the illustrations as well?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
The original artist I worked with, Bon, I kind of gave her a bunch of mood boards and stuff to give her a basic aesthetic, but
right.
she has kind of an Art Deco sensibility to her work that I wanted to kind of bleed in. Like, so I would give her a brief, but then I would give her as much free reign as she wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
So she had a lot of hand in like the costume design and stuff as well.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I when I'm working with illustrators, I try to give them an idea of what I want, but I don't want to be too prescriptive.
You
I've
don't
found when you're
be
working,
overshadowing the, yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
when you're working with good people, you really just want to let them do their thing and stand back and say, "Holy shit, that's amazing."
Yeah, right,
If you
right,
get
right, right.
if you get too overbearing, it can kind of squash the fun out of things. So I'm always careful to allow them as much liberty as they want. And Bon and Gonzalo, who I'm working with now,
Mhm.
they kind of bounce ideas off me while they're
Yeah,
working. Like they'll send me a sketch and say, "Oh, what do you think of this? And does this work for you?" So
yeah,
it's more a collaborative process in that
sure.
sense. Like I like them to feel a sense of ownership over the work and the fact that they're part of building this world.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah, the illustrations are, I think, a really valuable part of the storytelling. Like
Yeah.
I'm a very visually minded person. I was a graphic designer by trade. That's kind of what I
Oh,
grew up
nice.
doing.
Yeah.
So I see visually when I read. It's like I can see the movie
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
thing that I'm reading. But I know a lot of people's brains don't work that way. They just see words. So
Yeah.
throwing in some visual clues and cues to help, I think is really valuable for some readers. So I'm doing
Absolutely.
illustrations in the new one as well.
Okay.
Um, and I think it makes the books cooler, but also I think it helps some readers visualize in a way that they couldn't normally. So,
Yeah, because even the illustrations you post on your page, like the most recent one of Celine with the mask, I was like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
this is
that's
sick.
Laura.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, man, she's. I've been a massive fan of Laura's for years and years and years. And she just messaged me one day out of the blue because she had an idea for a book, and we're just talking about the process of writing and
Right,
what
right.
we're talking a little bit about AI. She was kind of afraid of what the impact of AI was going to be on the
Ah,
publishing industry
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Um, and it was a long, in-depth conversation. At the end of it, she said thanks, and I said, yeah, cool. Just I made some joke like just draw one of my characters as thanks, it's all good or whatever. And next thing I know, she actually she
Oh,
actually did.
was that
I
it?
was Yeah, I was totally joking. I just I was just having a laugh. And yeah, like 3, 4 weeks later, she posted an illustration of Celine. I'm like, oh, holy shit, because she's one of my favorite
Yeah,
artists of
I
all
was like,
time. So
yo,
yeah,
this is so cool. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She's a lovely lady. But yeah, and that was just us shooting the shit about writing stuff in the background. So it's kind of weird the way you bump into people that whose work you've admired for years and find out they're just cool people. So
Yeah,
that was great.
through and through. Was there a moment in your series that you're most proud of, or just the whole series as an entirety, or is there just one moment where you're like, oh yeah, like that was awesome?
Um, there's quite a few. I have a
Okay.
few favorite scenes. Like anytime Gabe and Dior are on the page alone and just
Yeah,
talking,
yeah.
I really like those two as a dynamic. I really like the way their relationship builds over time and what they come
Oh
to mean to each
yeah,
other.
yeah,
Even if it's just the pair of them sitting by a fire talking about
yeah.
a place they've been or something that happened to them. Um, the scene where Gabe is teaching Dior to play chess in Damned
Yes.
and using that as a metaphor for her and what her role
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
I know you think you want to change the world, but you're the most important piece on the board and you can't risk yourself. I really
Oh,
like that scene.
yeah.
And there's a couple of scenes in
Right.
Dawn that I'm super proud of, but I can't talk about them because they're a bit
Yep.
of a
Yep.
spoiler.
Yep.
But there's a big kind of oh shit moment about halfway through Dawn
Yeah.
that happens at the end of a big battle in a city called
Yeah.
San Maximil. And I wrote that I was living in Toledo because I usually go away. Whenever I'm writing a book, I'll go away for like a month to another city where I haven't been before and just soak
Oh
in the
wow.
vibes and
Okay.
turn off social media and just
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
work.
Right.
So I'm leaving like next Thursday for a month to finish the new series.
Okay.
So I was
Where you
living
going? Where you
in
going this time?
I'm going to Istanbul in Turkey.
Ooh.
No one knows that. So
All right.
I think I'm gonna do an event for Turkish readers while I'm there, but we're still working on
Sure.
that. I don't think anyone from Turkey is actually watching this live. So, but yeah, I'm going there for a month with a couple of writer buddies, and we just basically shut the
Nice.
door and
Yeah.
smash words all day.
Yeah.
But I was living in Toledo in 2024 at the end of the Empire of the Damned tour,
Uh,
and I was just walking around the walls and kind of soaking in the layout of the city because I was basing the layout of Toledo. That was kind of the foundational model for the city in which the battle I was writing was happening. So San Maximil is basically Toledo.
okay.
And I was just walking around the walls and I had this thought. It like fell out of the sky, that big twist moment that happens at the end of that
Yeah.
battle. I didn't really anticipate it. But I thought that's so crazy, it might actually work. So I ran back to the flat and wrote it down over the course of kind of 2 days. And at
Yeah.
the end of writing it, I knew, oh shit, no, this is a totally cool idea. So,
Yeah.
and it changed the way the book rolled out, but also the fact that I'd been working in that world for 5 years and, close to probably 700,000 words at that stage, and the book was still capable of surprising me,
Yeah.
was a really cool moment. So, yeah.
Surprised a
But
lot
like I
of
said, I
us.
can't.
It surprised me too. I was saying, yeah, no, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? But uh, going back, I love what you said about, well, one of the most that you're most proud of is scenes with Dior and Gabriel, because even the trajectory from the relationship from the first book until that last page in Dawn, it's just like, wow, what a journey that just these two have been on. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really proud of their relationship.
yeah,
The fact that I could get so much emotionality, so much pathos out of a non-romantic love. It's father-daughter essentially. It's what they are by the end of it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
They start off not really liking each other much at all,
Yeah.
and at the end, they're the most important people in each other's worlds. So
Yeah.
kind of seeing that build up over the course of three novels. Yeah, I'm really proud of the way that plays out.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is, in those moments where there's just the two of them on the page and they're talking about some bullshit. And you're kind of getting to the heart of who they are and how they feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a relationship that I'm really, really proud of. So
Very wholesome things too. And when I do talk about your series, and like people, I talked to someone the other day, and like, oh, like what are the like really found friends and family relationships. Like
sure, yeah.
and I definitely felt that way once I finished Dawn yesterday. I was like, and by the way, I that was one of the most perfect endings to a story that I could have
Oh,
ever.
thanks, man. That's cool of you to
Oh
say.
man, yeah, because at first it was chaos. At first I was like, oh my gosh, what is Jay doing? And then towards the end of it, I was like, all right, we're good, we're good.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it was a tricky book to write. I think it was probably the hardest of the three. If you've done your job in book one and two, the path of book three should be mostly laid out for you, like you're
right.
completing the goals that you've set for your characters in one and two.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
there needs to be enough. There needs to be enough. I think there's a scene where Gabe is talking to Jean-Francois. It's really early in Dawn,
Uh,
and he gets ambushed in the middle of the night by a wretched, and he doesn't have his sword, and so
yeah,
he's kind of punching on with it in the snow, and talking about how dangerous these things are. And Jean-Francois says, "Well, obviously it can't be too fucking dangerous because you're sitting in that chair telling me the story, so I
right,
know you lived.
right.
So like, why are you jerking me off, man? And I
Yeah,
appreciate the attempt at making this feel dramatic, but I know that you were fine, so just fucking jog on. Let's get on with the
right,
story."
right, right.
And Gabe says to him, "This has never been a story about whether I won or lost. It's about the price I paid for the lie of victory," which I
Mm,
think sums up book three, but it sums up the series as a whole. There's an unspoken pact between writer and audience that
yeah,
things are basically going to be okay. Like you
mm,
kind of know that
yeah,
the rebels are going to blow up the Death Star. You
yeah.
kind of know that
You're right.
Frodo's going to drop that ring in the mountain. Like
Yeah,
no one wants to read a book where Frodo just gets poleaxed on the slopes of Mount Doom and the heroes
right.
lose. So you kind of know the good guys are going to win. It's not about whether they win.
Yeah,
It's about the things they have to give up on the way there. It's about the things they lose on the road, on the way to the victory lap. That's what all good storytelling is about. So, that's one of the foundational principles of the trilogy as a whole, but in particular book three.
yeah,
You know Gabe is going to win. He's in the tower telling you the fucking story. It's not
yeah.
about that. It's never been about that.
Hmm.
It's about all the pieces of him that got cut off along the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun to come to the truth of that book, and the truth of that series as a whole. And
Yeah.
it kind of it changed the way I think it fundamentally changed the way I write and the way I view stories now. Even the act of writing that down on the page, because that scene came out of a note that I got on book two, in Empire of the Damned. One of my editors, she wrote some note on a battle scene, and she said, "You know what? I'm just kind of bored here because I know everything turns out okay.
Okay.
I know Gabe doesn't die in this scene, so where's the stakes?" And that got me thinking, well, if that's the way the reader is feeling, this whole this whole trilogy is fucked because Gabe wins. He's telling you the story. Like
Yeah.
you know you know Kvothe is okay in Name of the Wind. Anytime he's in physical danger on the page, he's not because he's telling you the fucking story. He
Right.
can't die.
Yeah.
So what is the juice of this story? Where are the stakes? Like he lives. How bad could it get? And I said, okay, like, motherfucker, I'll tell you how bad it got.
Right.
I'll tell you how bad it got. I'm going to make this
Yeah.
as bad as it could get. Yeah, he's still alive at the end, but what does he lose on the path to that finish line? That's the
Yeah.
important thing. So yeah, it's fun. Torturing game was a lot of fun. I put that
Yeah,
poor
no, he no
bastard
he
through.
he definitely went through it. And another
Yeah, man.
this another relationship that I loved was the banter between Jean Francois and Gabe the whole time. Like they and then there was a point where I was like, I think Gabe and Jean Francois are starting to warm up to each other. It's sort of like that. I kind of got like, you have your best friend and you can just cut the shit with, and there were moments where I just started laughing because of their conversations are just very serious at times, but then they're actually kind of funny at times too when you really sit in, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, I mean that was the vibe that I wanted the book to have when I set out to write it. I wanted it to feel like you're at a pub and sitting at a table and there's two guys behind you having a really intense conversation and you're just
yeah,
listening to it. That
yeah,
was the vibe I wanted. I wanted it to feel very fly on the wall.
yeah,
Um, and over the course of the trilogy, well, Jean-Francois gets to know Gabe
yeah,
very well,
yeah.
or at least he thinks he does by the end
Right,
of it.
right, right.
Um, and again, it's hard to talk without spoilers for book
Uh-huh.
three, but there's an intent, at least from Gabe's point of view, about establishing that rapport
Yeah.
and making you like me.
Uh-huh.
Um, because he's in that tower for a reason at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But yeah, that relationship really changed for me in terms of the writing over the course of the trilogy. Like in book
Uh-huh.
one, Jean-Francois is way more, I don't want to say two-dimensional, but he's not as finely rendered. He's basically a reader surrogate. He's there to
Yeah.
ask questions
Yeah.
that you, the reader, want the answer to.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's not until book two that you really learn who he is and why
Yeah.
he's there and the pressure that's being exerted on him from Margot,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the politics that he has to deal with and his place in society.
Right.
Once you find out who he is outside that room in the tower, once you see him a lot clearer, then that relationship between him and Gabe starts to
Yeah.
become a lot more multifaceted, I think. So
Sure.
yeah, kind of watching the way that relationship transformed over three books was a lot of fun. Then
Yeah.
the banter between those two guys is some of my favorite banter in the whole
Oh
book.
man, it was so good. It was so
Yeah,
good.
so that was really rewarding. Kind of, I felt like I knew who Jean-Francois was a lot more in book two. Like
Sure.
I
Yeah,
kind of got to the
absolutely.
root of who he was, and that really helped inform the way he reacted to Gabe and the way Gabe was kind of going to work his way under his skin. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I just finished yesterday, and it was the most cinematic epic fantasy trilogy I've read in some time. And I this is your book. This series is one of those series where I'm always thinking like, if this gets adapted, this is gonna be something special. Now that's gonna follow up to the next question, Mr. Kristoff here. What do we have to do to get this? You know what I mean? Get this on the screen. Well, would you? Let me backtrack here. Would you? I mean, I think this is a pretty easy answer. I feel like every author would sometimes would want their things to be adapted. But would you want these books to be greenlit into a movie series, TV series? Because I can, and you said it earlier. When you read, you visualize. I do the same exact thing. So I'm
Right.
visualizing this, and the whole time I was like, this would be sensational if this were ever to be, I'll be front and center in a cinema, like if this ever got adapted. But would that be something that you would like to see, or would you
Yeah,
just?
if it was done well, I think
Yeah,
is
sure, right, right,
that
right.
that's the real sticking point.
Yeah,
Because at the moment, I think if you were going to do it properly, because the books are so big, you'd probably have to do it in TV rather than film. I think it's probably too
uh-huh.
much to do in cinema.
Sure,
Um,
yeah,
and the track record of TV adaptations for fantasy properties in recent years hasn't been great. There haven't been many good ones.
yeah,
You know, you've got Witcher, you've got Rings of Power, you've got Wheel of
Rings of
Time.
Power wasn't good?
No, it's dog shit. It's terrible. Man, it's so bad.
Really?
I try not to diss anyone else's work
Okay,
because I know
okay, 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 okay.
making these things is really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Rings of Power ain't good, man.
Oh,
No,
darn. It's crazy
it's
because
and
that was on my watch list, but all
I
right.
mean, by all means, watch
All
it and
right,
make up
give it a
your own
shot.
mind.
Okay.
Like, don't let anyone tell you what to like. If you
Yeah.
want to watch it and make up your own mind. So yeah, those films are, I think, genuine masterpieces, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to follow the work of
Sure. Yep.
masters. But the TV show falls off the rails really quickly for a lot of reasons.
Uh-huh.
Primarily, to my mind, it's because the people adapting it didn't respect the source material.
Mm,
And it takes enormous balls for you to say, yeah, Tolkien's pretty good, but I can do it better. Like,
right.
man, I don't know where those stones come from. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you'd have to partner with people who respected the work. Like
For
the
sure.
way, like Brandon Sanderson has just struck a
Yeah.
deal with Apple
Yep.
in which he has it, I haven't seen the contracts, but from what people are saying, he has enormous amount of creative control over it. Like he's
Good. Yeah.
overseeing the writing and production.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and insofar as finding a safe pair of hands to adapt Brandon's work, Brandon's hands are probably the safest. So I'm
Yeah.
sure Cosmere fans are going to get something that's amazingly faithful to his vision and his world.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's the most creative control I think any author has ever managed to achieve.
Uh-huh.
Like not even J.K. Rowling got that level of oversight over the Harry
Yeah.
Potter films. So Brandon is Brandon. Like Brandon is like he's a level above everybody.
Mm,
So if I was having those conversations, I wouldn't be able to wield that kind of power. But you would want to sign up with people who got it, and you know that can be hard to do.
yeah.
You're really, unless you're wielding an enormous amount of clout in the negotiations,
Sure.
you're
Right.
basically handing over your baby and saying,
Yeah.
"Don't drop it." But you
Yeah.
can't really stop them if they drop it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it would be awesome if you were working with the right people.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if they got the work and respected where it was coming from. Obviously, when you're adapting from book to TV or book to film, you have to make changes. It's the nature
Yeah.
of the medium. There are things that you can't do in TV that you do in books, and vice versa. So changes have got to be made. But
Yeah.
if it's being done from a place of respect and an understanding of the text, then those changes can
Absolutely.
be really positive. And if it's motivated by ego and a desire to stamp yourself on the work of someone else, then it usually goes to hell. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, where there are conversations happening at the moment. I can't say anything about them.
Yeah. Sure. Right.
Keep your fingers crossed that there could be cool news down the track.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll give about full 3, 4, 5 minutes to answer any questions anyone may have. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Like
Yeah,
you did
man.
say,
Thank you.
you are deep into your next project. So yeah.
Yeah, the idea is that it will be done by the end of that trip. So I leave next Thursday and I'm away basically the whole month. And at the end of that, if I don't have a finished book, then I'm going to be a very sad panda. So keep
Yeah.
your fingers crossed for me. But yeah, I'm right at the end. I'm basically it'll probably be about probably 220,000 words, which is a little
Okay.
bit shorter than Empire, not much. And
Uh,
I'm sitting at 180 at the moment, so I'm really close to the end.
there you go.
But I just had to, like I said, I got to that point where it's like, I don't know why you're here in this story, buddy. I've got to figure out a reason for you to be here, or just cut you the fuck out. So I'm kind of going back and making those changes, smoothing out the ripples of those changes, and then hopefully just jumping into the finale. So, but
All right.
it's been a lot of fun to write.
Sure.
It's similar in vibe to Empire. It's kind of dark fantasy, but this one is a little more fun.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's not a laugh riot romp or
Yeah.
anything, but it's a little lighter in tone. Like Empire was grim and heavy and
Uh-huh.
bleak and dark, kind of all the way through.
Yeah.
This one is it's a it's a bit brighter in tone and there's a higher level of magic. So I guess it's a little more fantastical in that sense. So that's been really fun to kind of play
Okay.
with those old school D&D ideas because usually my settings are pretty low magic,
Yeah.
pretty kind of gritty realism,
Yeah.
whereas this one is, it's not OTT fantastical, but it's
Yeah.
a little more fantastical than typically the stuff that I write. So that's been really cool.
Yeah. I mean, even the how Gabe has to subside his thirst by lighting up the pipe. That was really cool. That was a really cool concept as well because I that was
Oh, cool.
yeah, that was awesome. That was really unique, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool way to kind of see how he copes with that inner thing that wants to come out. And when it comes out, at times there's flashes of it. You gotta rip them off because it's what I mean. It's yeah, it was really
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I mean he's basically, part of his story is dealing with addiction. And
Yeah.
I've had friends who've kind of struggled with it for years, and I've
Uh
seen
huh.
a couple of my friends kind of have their lives torn apart by it. So
Yeah.
that that was really one of the truths at the heart of his character. But like I say,
Right.
that wasn't even part of his character until
Yeah.
November 2019. That
Uh
wasn't,
huh.
I didn't come to that truth of him until like really
Sure.
late in the process.
Sure.
So yeah, writing is chaos.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, there's a few questions here. I'll have you answer, but then we'll get you out of here. That
Yeah, sure.
way, let me scroll. Let me see here. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see here. We got here. What fantasy authors, this is from Lindsay, what fantasy author or authors do you feel has a similar writing style to you?
In terms of the tone of the worlds that I build, Mark Lawrence is one, Joe Abercrombie is another, uh, John Gwynne is another. We're kind of the four grimdark boys, I
Yeah.
guess you would call us.
Yeah.
Um,
I interviewed John a few months ago, and
oh yeah,
then he actually, I think he either just turned in his new
yeah.
stuff going on.
He
But
he
yeah,
was telling me about it. He emceed my event in London when I was on
yeah.
tour for Dawn. One of the nicest dudes you're ever going to meet, man.
Oh,
He's just a lovely
John is
guy.
such a yeah
Man,
yeah. He's
he's
amazing.
champion. I love him to death. And you read his
Right.
books, and it's like, God damn, how does how does this brutality come out of this sweet man? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So like aesthetically, those three. In terms of prose, I the biggest influence on my prose style, I think, is an author named William Gibson, who was like a sci-fi spec fic author from the 80s and 90s. He wrote a great book called Neuromancer. He basically invented the concept of the internet before the internet existed.
Okay.
But he was one of the first writers that actually sat down and studied like the craft of the way he wrote,
Ah, okay.
the way the way he would build mood and
Sure.
pace
Yeah.
into the structure of the writing of his sentences and stuff.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I kind of learned at the feet of William. Yeah, the way he can evoke mood purely through structure is
Yeah.
pretty exceptional. He's an amazing writer.
Okay.
And another fantastic world builder that I love is a guy named China Mayville, who is another UK author. He wrote in a brief-lived spec fic bubble called New Weird.
Okay.
It was kind of like mid 2000s, and he wrote a really cool series of books called the Baslag books. He's just an amazing world builder. He is more imaginative than pretty much anyone else I've seen writing in spec
Mm,
fic. Like the
okay.
worlds that he builds and the ideas that he comes up with are pretty astonishing. So yeah, he's another one.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there you go. There's a few of them right there. Um, Meg asks if you could pick a protagonist and a side character, are you going with Mia and Mr. Kindly or Gabe and Ash?
I mean, both of those characters would be really mad at me, so I'm not sure if I would want to go on an adventure with them because I'd put them both through hell. I would probably pick Mia because she has had longer to cool off. It's been like 5 years since I stopped torturing her, so she's probably forgiven me a little bit now. I think Gabe would still be super mad at me for the shit that I put him through. So We'll go with Mia.
All right. All right, guys. Let's get one or two more. What part of the Empire trilogy were you most terrified to write, and which character surprised you the most?
The character that there are probably two characters that surprised me the most. The first being Celine,
Huh.
um, because when I was originally planning the book, Celine was a completely different character. She
Yeah.
was there was always going to be a vampire who was a member of the Asani who was going
Yeah.
to glom onto Gabe and travel with him. But initially, it wasn't Celine. I won't
Yeah.
talk much about Celine in case
Uh-huh.
people haven't read the first book. But her her identity was completely different. Like I kind of stumbled across
Yeah.
that idea really late in the writing of the book. And again, that fundamentally shaped the story and who she grew into. You know, she's one of my favorite characters in the book, but
Mm.
she was not what was planned at all. It was a
Okay.
completely different character. And also Aaron, like when in the original
Yeah.
version of Vampire, Aaron, he was basically just Draco Malfoy. He was just a mean
Yeah.
little blonde shit at
Yeah.
school who was gonna,
Right.
give Gabe some grief, and then Gabe would
Yeah.
graduate, and that would be the end of the story.
Yep.
But when I was editing the novel, there was another character who was in the relationship with Baptiste,
Yeah.
and the book was too long. I needed to shorten it, and so in
Okay.
the end, I cut that character out and gave that relationship to Aaron,
Yeah.
which completely transformed him as a character, but also
Sure.
completely transformed his relationship with Gabe.
Absolutely.
And his path through the novel, like,
Yeah.
radically shifted after that. Aaron and Gabe's relationship is probably my favorite relationship in the whole
Oh,
trilogy.
yeah.
Um, and the scene where Gabe and Aaron, it's at the end of Vampire, when they're in the cathedral just talking about faith, and Gabe is kind of interrogating Aaron about, you
Uh,
know, how can you still be a believer when God does all these terrible things? That's probably my favorite
yeah.
conversation in the whole trilogy.
I just
And
got
none of that would have
goosebumps
happened.
when you said that. Cause yeah, that was
Yeah,
that
that's
line. I was like, ooh, that's heavy.
yeah, and all of that came out of, you know, just having the necessity of having to cut out 20,000 words. So, all right, I'll cut this character out and just
Yeah.
make Aaron the gay guy.
Right.
But the way that transformed his relationship with Gabe and his role in the trilogy subsequently, like that was a seismic shift. He became a
Yeah.
completely different guy. But, you know, I wound up with this amazing relationship. I think there's a scene in Dawn where again, Gabe and Aaron are just they're sitting on some horses and watching some riders ride toward them, and Aaron starts talking to Gabe. You know, I've noticed you've started smoking a lot recently. Like he can see Gabe is
Yeah.
slowly losing
Yeah.
himself
Yeah.
to the thirst, and he's not giving him shit about it. He's not chastising him about it, but he's like, "Hey, I'm your buddy, and I see what's happening to you,
Yeah.
and I care." Like just those quiet moments for me have a lot of emotional resonance, and none of that would have happened if
Sure.
that change hadn't happened in book one. So,
Man,
yeah,
that's
the
so
way, the,
crazy.
yeah, he was just going to be Draco Malfoy. I thought maybe when I was plotting book one, I thought maybe he would come back in book three as like an antagonist, because
Uh,
like you know, Gabe had
yeah.
failed the Order, and Aaron was going to stay loyal to the Order.
Ah, okay.
That was kind of maybe where I thought they were going to go. But yeah, then I gave him the relationship with Baptiste, and he becomes this completely different guy. So yeah, that surprising in the best way. Yeah, he ended up becoming a completely different character, and the relationship he formed with Gabe is probably my favorite in the book. So yeah,
That's
it's really
awesome.
cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it when things don't go to plan, but the thing that happens is even better than you planned. Like that's
I,
the best part of writing.
all of these characters have such strong ties to one another. And yeah, it's crazy that throwing out that one character and just flip flopping it, and then you get this whole
That
trajectory
changes
different.
everything. Yeah,
That's so
everything.
wild.
It's like throwing a pebble down a mountainside and starting an avalanche.
Yeah,
It's literally that. Like one spark starts a fire that burns down the whole forest.
that's insane. Okay, guys, let's get one more in, one more. Let me see. Give me okay. All right, last one here. So, are any of your characters main or side based on ideas you've had for D&D characters you wanted to play? Ooh, that's a good one.
Uh, I lean on D&D here and there. So, like the Aegis, the tattoos of the Suicide, that's basically protection from evil 10-foot radius. Like it gives you +2 to saving throws and +2 to armor class. It makes you bright and you're harder to hit.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
that was the gamer in me basically thinking like, okay, how can I give these guys an advantage against creatures that are faster and stronger than them?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I kind of not so much characters, but
Uh-huh.
certainly concepts I'm leaning on all the time. And there's a character in the new book that I'm writing now, who is named after one of my D&D characters, a guy named
Oh,
Jolliver.
really?
Yeah, like I played this halfling swashbuckler who was like completely the opposite to me. He was this little fencing guy, and he was always happy to see people and always
Yeah.
really complimentary. He's like, completely different to my personality, and his name was Jolliver. People called him Jolly, and I have taken that name and given it to a character in the new series who is exactly like me. He's just this grumpy fuck, but his name is Jolliver, and everyone calls him Jolly to give him shit. So
Yeah, it just
yeah, I borrowed that from D&D as well.
there you go. There you go. Well, Jay, again, thank you so much for your time. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no worries, man. It
I
was a pleasure to be here.
absolutely I love your series. I actually have Nevernight up next. So I'm
The
gonna
Target Edition. All right,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. So I am going to binge this series as well. And yeah, your work is incredible. We're all grateful. And especially for us fantasy nerds out there, I I'm probably gonna do a whole reread of your series again. It was just that good. It was just so good.
Thanks,
So
man. That really means the world to me. And yeah,
absolutely.
thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you to everyone else out there who spreads the word. Like I said at the start, it really makes a huge difference that I don't think any individual can appreciate. But like if you're out there spreading the word about my books, you help in ways that you can't possibly imagine. So to you and your audience and everyone out there talking about the novels, I really appreciate you. Thank you.
We appreciate you. So Jay, thank you again. Have a great rest of your day. I can't wait to see what you're cooking up. Have fun
All
in
right. Wish me
Istanbul.
luck.
And
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.